AfCFTA agreement, very big one. Now, on the 1st of January 2021, trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area commenced after months of delays caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. As the global economy is in turmoil due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the creation of a vast AfCFTA regional market is a major opportunity to help African countries diversify their exports, accelerate growth, and attract foreign direct investments. According to the UN Economic Commission for Africa, the AfCFTA has the potential to increase intra-African trade by over 50%, while the World Bank suggests the agreement could mean an added $6 billion in income for the rest of the world. Despite the clear benefits and historic accomplishments, experts say the agreement will face a number of hurdles in practice, like a lack of a modern and efficient infrastructure, unclear information about processes, barriers for women-led businesses, economic destruction brought in by COVID-19 that could reverse years of progress in the region. Some also fear that large economic gains made in the diverse economies will be equally distributed. I have joining me now live in our Lagos studio to make more sense of the AfCFTA agreement and address other issues. He's an international trade expert. I can go on and on. Former export manager with Unilever International. We're in over 20 countries. Also with Cowbell Milk, head exports, Dangote Group, consultant to FAO and the United Nations, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Agribusiness, export promotion in Nigeria. He's also a member of the Institute of Expert International, UK, member of the Shipping and Export Management, Ghana, fellow of the Institute of Export, Nigeria. Let me just go to him. Dr. John Isemide. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you very much.
Yes, the federal government has January 1st, 2021, as the month to campaign for the importance of the AfCFTA as it takes off. Do you think the local industry base is strategically positioned and funded to take advantage of the opportunities in this market?
Yeah, thank you very much. We have to look at where we are coming from before we to look at the industries, whether we are ready or not. The truth of the matter is that I'm here to pet 100 years of African trade. So at creation, we were created in our loose groupings. Trade has been going on. It's now that we want to officially put things in the right perspective. If you look at the story of slave trade, and I've traveled around the continent of Africa by road. If you go to Morocco, if you go to Rabat, there are areas. Then if you go to Senegal, the Gorée Island, the Amina Castle in Ghana, Badagry, if you go to Mombasa, and so on. So we have been trading. The other issue now we should look at is that the African Continental Free Trade did not start today. Even before Ghana president, on the 6th of March 1957, came up at the independent, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah said the integration of Africa and the industrialization of Ghana to have a single market. That was in 57. Nigeria was still under the British rule. And by 58, the United Nations Commission on Africa was established in Ethiopia. They were waiting for Nigeria as the giant of Africa, based on population and resources, and our industrial base at that time, to take over. By 1961, the first letter was issued to Nigeria. By 1963, OAU was formed, now the AU. And what was discussed was integration and cooperation in Africa. There were 32 members at that time present. By 1961, a letter was sent. By 1975, Nigeria was putting things together. That was the time we have all the industries you can think of. General Yakubu Gowon opened Peugeot in Lagos, in Kaduna, Volkswagen, and you count the number of companies all over. Where are they today? Then by 1980, that was the first time I came into the scene. All what I was telling you was what I read from books. And by 1980, I was about leaving the university, when we had the historic meeting here in Lagos by President Shehu Ali Usman Shagari. 1991, we had that of General Ibrahim Babangida. And during that meeting, there were two meetings simultaneously. that of ECOWAS and that of the single market. There were 51 African members present in May, June 1991. And there was a template. The first thing we asked General Ibrahim Babangida is that doing business in West Africa and Africa is not the issue. We belong to the private sector. The first thing we should think of is payment. That was how EcoBank came up, using the private sector. As we're deliberating on that, Nexim was already in existence in Nigeria. The issue of having AfRexim came up, and Chief Edodu was seconded to Egypt. So if you look at the background, how have we fared, even having ECOWAS Secretariat in Abuja? Have we looked at that template that some of us use? Because when you are talking of business, you talk of product map or mapping. I travel around the sub-region, West Africa from here to Senegal by road. Went to Algeria by road. Covers Cameroon and Chad. So when you are talking of industries and all that, have we been able to map out? Was there a research carried out? By 2002 to by 1997, General Sani Abacha organized the best trade fair we can ever think of in Kaduna. The Nigeria and AU trade fair. What was it? To bring in people to see that Nigeria has the capacity. Yeah. And during the time of Shagari, President Obasanjo, we have what we call the Nigerian fleet. So the issue of transportation was not there. It was not part of our discussion. By 1992, NEPAD came in, 2007, 2012. And by 2017, a committee was set up by the government. And if you look at the committee, none of them has ever filled the Form M or NSP. And when it was time to sign in Kigali, we were not prepared, we were not ready. I was the first person to cry out that we have the capacity to sign, but we don't have the capacity to compete. Look at Kenya. The thing you gave to me today was from Kenya. And what is happening in Mambila Plateau? Because Titus is produced on Morocco, a lot of people don't know that what Morocco is getting for Titus and is much more than what NNPC is giving to us. We had the Kaduna refinery where countries around us were coming. Pojo was selling all over West Africa. So the issue of not signing at the time we're supposed to sign was that we were not prepared. Yeah. All right. After that, in 2019, we finally signed in Niamey. And the question I asked, those who went to Niamey, were they there in the Nigerian carrier? The answer is no. And some travel from here to Togo, from Togo to Abidjan, Bamako before coming. If I was invited, it could have been a matter of driving to Kebbi State, 4 hours I'm in Niamey. These are the things we should look at. So we are prepared because it's like a student that have collected JAMB form. You sat for the exam, admission has been given to you, and now in the class. So the question we should ask now, our level of preparedness, ready to do the business. Because in international business, there's what we call import and export. So a lot of people don't even know what is signed. They are looking at it as it's for the normal trade fair, trade mission, signing agreement, because Nigeria has signed more than 600 agreements.
How many have been implemented?
How many of them have been implemented? All right, Mr. President has more than 10 groups advising. And this the African Continental Free Trade has what we call the Committee Plan of Action. But do we have M&E, monitoring and evaluation? That in 6 months, where will we be to detect what is the journey so far? Thank you.
Now, the World Bank and Nigerian government have developed the 2020-2030 strategic plan. We also have digital industry, trade, investment platforms. Now, a review of the Nigerian Industrial Revolution plan, a lot. Now, what sort of strategic engagement do you think we need to be having this time across these key value chains?
When you talk of value chain, when you are talking of business value chain, if you look at the Nigerian Constitution, that any agreement entered into must go to the National Assembly in line with Section 12 of the Constitution. How many of this? Because that of the Continental Free Trade was so hot on our hand, and it is not Mr. President to sign. It's the National Assembly. And the situation we find ourselves now is that the MDAs have completed their job. They are regulators. They are not into any business. It is now the role of the private sector. All this you are quoting from the World Bank and all that. What, for the past 20 years, what has the OPS put in place that even if we kickstart the African Continental Free Trade today, where is the certificate of origin? Because we developed the certificate of origin. Certificate of origin is the property of the customs. But when the custom was removed from Ministry of Trade and Industry in 1990, it was given to the Chamber of Commerce. Then we added that of ECOWAS. So when you are now saying the World Bank and all that, in a country like Nigeria, with 206 million people, we cannot boast of 5 export managers. All right, we can say Chinatown project, the UAC of this world, the Levantis and the Unilever Nigerian Brewery came in to establish what is the role of the foreign affairs or the ambassador in line with the Vienna Convention of 1963. We are ready, but we have to tell ourselves the level of preparedness.
That's the most important part of it. You mentioned AfDB, AfCFTA, and all of that. I'm now looking at roles that all of these banks should play in helping to revitalize the industrial sector in our economy.
Thank you. Nigeria got independent in 1960. The 2 bodies we had at that time supporting exporters, because what we be exporting had been agricultural produce. It was the plant quarantine and the Federal Produce Board. Nothing was rejected from this country. That was the time we were maintaining the commodity boards. The Western Region Commodity Board was from 1946 to 1986. Rejection of our produce started because of what the IMF asked to do. And today, we can no longer compete. And if you are now looking at the scenario, how do we now build the value chain? Because business, even if you are talking of petroleum, you have upstream, midstream, and downstream. Are we now going to compete with petroleum? If you are talking of agriculture, are we in that position? Finally, what of the infrastructure? In West Africa, this is the least developed sub-region in the world. Because the railway line that started in Lagos in 1896 got to Abeokuta in 1905, today is not connected to that of Cameroon or to Benin Republic. The one in Benin Republic, if you go to Ogun State, is less than 10 kilometers. But with the Anglophone and the Francophone agreement, it is only from Abidjan, you see, running to Bobo Dalasso and Ouaga, and the one from Senegal stopping in Bamako. So even with all what we've done in ECOWAS, have we been able to put the infrastructure? Do we have a national carrier? The greatest problem we had during that of ECOWAS was that of the currency. Because when you now talk of currency, West Africa had 10 different currencies, now 8. Africa, with 55 members, 54 are members of the body. Only one that is equally not a member of the WTO is not a member. That does not mean. The only currency that is convertible in West Africa is the CFA. It's not the real exchange rate, but because it's tied to the French franc. And when the French franc surrendered to the euro in 2000, it automatically became part of the euro. So if CN is telling us that we have to go with LC, we have to do this, the issue now is the currency, the exchange rate, and not all countries under the Bretton Woods Agreement are signed to. Doing business with Ghana, Ghanaian economy is tied to the dollar. Nigeria economy is tied to the dollar. Benin Republic economy is tied to the euro. These are some of the things, because you have rule in central bank that if you export and you don't bring that money, that penalty is there.
Yep.
So we have a lot of job to do at home. How can a country like Nigeria, we have NDA training soldiers, we have police college, we have custom, who is training the Nigerian investor? that today Apapa is jam-packed. Not just because the infrastructure is not there. The first thing you add custom is the mode of documentation. Import is on a single window. Export is still pieces of paper. So how can we cope? You go to the border, it's even worse, that we don't even know what is called trade facilitation.
Now, we've seen the NEPC, that's Nigeria Export Promotion Council. I've seen the NIPC. I've had discussions with the CEOs, and they always talk about efforts trying to improve exports and all of that. What's your forecast in terms of expansion of growth? What do you see? Where do you see Nigeria?
The issue is not with the Nigeria Export Promotion Council.
Okay.
They were established in 1976. They trained some of us, although we equally trained outside. And we had the opportunity of working in the best multinational and international companies. The question I will throw back to you, the engineers in NNPC, were they trained by NNPC? Or are the engineers in Agric or the experts in Standard Organization of Nigeria, you know? Because when we were talking about payment, we equally came up with standards. When we collapsed the commodity board, that was why General Ibrahim Babangida came with a lot of MDAs. Standard Organization, research, and all that. Today, they were not set up for the multinational organization because we have our lab, we have our quality system, we have quality infrastructure that can meet the demand of any. But the question and the way we deceive ourselves in this country is that we cannot meet standards. It is the buyer that requires standard. That was why I confronted the United States over AGOA. If really you are serious, come set the standard there, because the tobacco company in Nigeria has extension workers, and they are working with the farmers to meet standards. So also, some of the companies using palm oil in this country have investment in the plantation. So when you are talking of standard, though, the first thing now we should, how do we develop manpower? How do we put infrastructure on ground? There are two major bodies now responsible for our agreement on the African Continental Free Trade or Single Market to survive. One is the organized private sector. Because people are looking at it as for the big boys, which is not, because those who manage or who run businesses in the Far East are the SMEs. So we have more than 40 export processing zones. And they are to compete, because if you go to Japan and other areas, it's not Toyota that is sending goods to Nigeria. It's through the export processing zone for you now to reduce your cost. The final analysis we equally have to look at. The greatest problem now lies on the National Assembly, because they have what they call the oversized function. Things must work. So it's not longer seminar and workshop for one organization to come and tell the private sector this, or private sector organizes seminar, workshop, and trade fair and trade mission, where we exhibit foreign products. So we should now be thinking of backward integration, import substitution for us to compete. So our hope is not lost. If the government can have committee, action, 20 or 10 different bodies advising, and the level of the exchange rate is like this. Secondly, if you look at it, we are in recession. Petrol, we are importing. The greatest problem was the border closure. Because the agreement we have signed, we were able to survive because ECOWAS agreement, based on work with President Rowley, is on human rights. It's not on economic sabotage. Otherwise, we sign into the transit agreement. And you cannot prevent Niger from using Apapa port. All these things that it is right time we look for the best 11 to work with the National Assembly, not bringing everybody from all corners of Nigeria because you are involved in ABCD to come and be part of the continental free trade. I have used this hand to sign NSP, to sign FORMEM and order to more than 20 African countries. People who serve in that committee, they should come out now because they advised Mr. President to sign. And we said, go ahead and sign. But after signing, we are now like students in school, we have to take exam. Because South Africa is not waiting for you. The Secretariat is in Ghana. But Ghana having the secretariat does not have advantage over us. Ghana is just, because as at the time Ghana got independent, the population was 6 million. So what we have to do now is that how do we, based on our population, based on market, because if you look at the world trade is about 100 trillion. Nigeria's contribution to the world trade, import and export, is only 3%. Africa is only 10%. So there's an illusion and a misgiving that is going to be the best or the largest. If you are talking of the largest, Nigeria that is controlling only 3% is 24 in the world based on our GDP. All right, if you look at the entire scenario,
wow,
they said it's a population of 1.2 billion. All right, population of 1.2 billion is at 15% of the world total population. West Africa, trade within West Africa is 5%. So if it's 5%, so about 95% is still with the rest of the world. If you now say Africa is 15%, based on the picture Professor Ali Mazuri and Salim Mazuri has painted more than 20 years ago, is like 85 over the world. So if we now say it's the biggest market, what is the population of Africa? 1.2 billion. All right, what is the population of India? India controls 60% of the Commonwealth. Nigeria only has 8.5% population of the Commonwealth. What of China? China controls close to 20% of the world trade. So if you look at Africa, if you say they are the large, because we are 55 or 54 members, and they, what is it? 15%. What of the Far East, the Asian bloc? About 50% of interest. In Europe, UK in and out, it's about 70%. In America, it's about 40%. So we should not be based on assumption. This is the time to work with facts and figures, because at the end of the day, we are going to do a balance sheet.
Dr. John Isede, international trade expert, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and educating us more on this very important topic of discuss. I presume there should be part 2 of this discussion, because a lot needs to be explained to Nigerians on this topic. Thank you very much.